Hey guys. So, as a pilot, I get a lot of questions about working for the airlines, what it's like being a pilot, you know, questions about my experiences so far. Now, I am still a relatively new pilot. I've been flying for a couple of years now, just about like 4 years. Um, I've only flown for three companies. Two of them were Part 135. One of them was a Part 91 company. And for the most part, I worked. The longest I've worked was as a flight instructor, and now I've flown for a 135 commuter, and I currently work for a 135 cargo carrier, and I decided to create a short list, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible, of the 5 best things and the 5 worst things about being a new pilot, specifically a new commercial pilot. All right. Now, I don't want to discourage you. I want you guys to understand that these are some of the things you're going to have to deal with as a new pilot. Some of the things that have come up to me relatively quickly that I've had to deal with. And I want you guys to understand. I want you to know what the life is like. And I want you to realize that there is a silver lining to pretty much every negative, and a thunderstorm for every positive, right? All right, so the 5 best and worst things about being a new pilot. So let's start with the worst, right? Everybody wants to hear the bad news first, and then we'll get to the good news. So the first thing on being a new pilot that sucks is long days. Now, your flying doesn't translate to your day. Your flying translates to the time that you take off and you land at your destination. Now, you will often be at jobs where you actually don't fly that often, you know? My cargo carrier that I work for now, I probably fly on average anywhere from 3 hours to at the most maybe 5 hours a day. But unfortunately, due to downtime, waiting for loading, unloading, fueling, being released, IFR plans and all that good stuff, and my days are typically around 12-hour days from the time that I show up to work to the time I get to leave work. That includes time of sitting around, waiting, maintenance, fueling, all that stuff. I had plenty of days in which I got here and I was told, oh, just go do this quick run. It's about an hour, and it's an hour there, hour back. And they're like, okay, cool, 2 hours of flying. Well, I had to wait for a fueler. Fuelers didn't show up for an hour. I had to pre-trip the plane. There's 30 minutes to 45 minutes. I had to wait for them to load. There was an hour right there. Then I had to unload, which was like another 30, 40 minutes, pre-trip the plane, take off and come back. And so that 1 2-hour flight turned into like 4 hours of work. So long days are definitely one thing you have to look forward to. Now, in comparison to, working a long day at a regular job, it's not so bad because you're not working. You're not humping, cleaning, hauling, goods and physically in labor. They're just long days that you can feel it. You feel tired. You're stuck at work. So that's number one for one of the worst things. Number 2, old school mentality. Old school mentality has been a thing that has bugged the heck out of me for a long time, and I don't really get it. I really don't. What I mean by old school mentality is the inability for some of these companies to adjust to times. When I think of how much time I waste writing paperwork, filling out flight logs, and I'm just like, there are digital programs to do this. Why am I sitting here filling out a paper, and then what makes it even sillier is I fill out the paper and then I have to take a photo of it and then email it. Or even worse, they had a system, thank God they don't use it as much, where you would fill out the paper and then you would call and leave a voicemail on the answering machine to give them the times and information. And you're just like, wow, this is really old school. I don't understand why, a lot of companies are, you get ready to go, boom, you put it in the app sends it to dispatch okays everything, boom, and you're good to go. They're making it so much easier, so much more accurate, especially when I have to deal with math. Ugh, there is nothing you want more. There's nothing you do not want more than me having to give you my math. When you know, I am terrible at math. Pilots don't math. We don't math. I hate math. And so if you're going off my numbers, I use digital programs now that I have to convey and write down just so I make sure my numbers are correct. Old school mentality, you know. Alongside that, there are some runs where they don't make sense, where they have you starting in a different location, staying at an outstation, you know, doing weird things, and you're just like, I don't understand. If everybody is based in one place, why do I have to go to an outstation, spend the night there to start early in the morning coming back when I could just start, you know, early in the morning from here to that location? And you'll find that a lot of times it was like, oh, we had a guy when they first started who lived out there and it was all built around him, or, you know, this is just how we always did it, and now that we move bases, it doesn't make sense, but yet they still do it. Old school mentality. With that old school mentality, the next thing, number 3, management. Management can make or break a lot of these companies. I've met many pilots, and I've been, you know, a victim of it myself, where there are some great companies, some great jobs that a lot of people want, but once you start working there, you will find that they're just poorly managed or mismanaged. And that can be very upsetting. It can be very upsetting, especially if you really enjoy the job, you know, whether it just be, you know, a lack of scheduling, you know, improper management of paperwork, or, you know, overbearing, messing up schedules, messing up pay and stuff like that. It's just unacceptable, and it can really break a lot of pilots. Like I said, I've met plenty of pilots who are just like, oh, I came from this company, and I'm like, why'd you leave that company? That's a great sounding company. I know a lot of people want to work there, and the first thing they say, oh, it was a shit show. The people who were managing that company, they didn't know what they were doing. They were constantly making your life unbearable. So management can be a bit of a pain. Unfortunately, that's the way of transportation companies. You know, transportation companies are all about bottom line, and they will often prioritize moving that product, whether it be people, cargo, you know, whatever, moving that plane is their priority. And if there's ways that they can cut corners, if there's ways that they can get it done a little cheaper, or they can get it done a little faster, they're going to do it. You know, a lot of complaints in the industry right now is with fatiguing schedules. You know, instead of making the companies more livable and making the companies more enticing for newer applicants, a lot of these companies are like, well, we got to pick up the slack somewhere. What are we going to do? We need to work the people we have as much as we can. But more importantly, they need to work the people as much as they can and pay as little as they can. And you'll find out real quick that it seems like you're not working that hard, but you're spending a lot of time at the job, and your time at work and your time away from family and your time away from being able to live like a normal person, just investing in a company, will not translate to what you're being paid. You know, a lot of pilots real quick will be like, yeah, I love this job, but I really don't get paid enough to be here. And it comes down often to just management. Management will make or break a company. So number 4 is family life. Now, this is a hard one because being a pilot can be very stressful, you know, and the jobs that pay the most require obviously the most out of you, whether it's you're away from home, whether it's the amount of hours that you're putting in, whether it's, you know, the importance of the work that you're doing, the stress that you're dealing with. And this job is a lifestyle. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle, it's a career. And so there are very few people who work in jobs in which they are home every day, or I should say there are very few people who are pilots who work in the career in which they are home every day, in which they have very flexible schedules, in which they get to spend a large amount of time with their family. There are jobs out there like that, but often they are not on the same pay scale, and they're not operating the equipment that most pilots want to equip to fly. You know, if you wanted to fly a small plane close to home, you can probably find that job. If you wanted to fly a jet for a corporate or for a commercial airline, for a large airlines, a Part 121, it's going to be there. You're going to have some sacrifices there, and often it comes to your daily life and family. There are a lot of pilots who are divorced. There are a lot of pilots who have issues with girlfriends, boyfriends, with, you know, dealing with kids, with personal issues. And, you know, there are a lot of unfortunate, miserable pilots who just want to be home. They want to be with their loved ones. And when you're in jobs in which you realize that really 80 to 90% of your day you're spending at work, or sometimes, you know, you got schedules where they're like 8 on, 6 off, or 6 on, 3 off, where you are living between hotels, airports, and you get to go home for 3 days, and then you have to commute, or, you know, it can be a little rough. You know, it can be rough on the loved ones, and it can be rough on you. It's really a job where if you don't have a passion for it, a passion where you can do this every day, all day, it can be a pretty rough job. You know, I have definitely worked jobs where they were less stressful, they were less commitment required, and you were in the job and you were gone. You know, you work for your 8 hours, you work for whatever, and you just go home and you don't even think about the job. You don't have no part of that job is involved with your personal life, and that's great. You want that, right? But this kind of job's not like that. You know, there are plenty of times in which, you know, I'm getting calls in the middle of the night, or, you know, there are runs they want me to do, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna go do this run, and you'll be back in 2 days, you know, or, you know, you're like, yeah, you tell your loved one, I'm going to be home at like 5 o'clock today. It's cool. And then you get a call and they're like, hey, we need you to move a plane. You're still within your 16, so you can go do it. You know, you're still within your 8 hours. You can still go do it. And the next thing you know, you don't get home until like 9, 10 p.m. So it can be a little stressful. The last and the worst part of aviation is it's all time-based. Right? The amount of time you have in that cockpit, the amount of time you have flying, the time that you have in equipment, the time that you have for your requirements for your licenses, and that time is a lot. It's a lot, you know. It can, before you're a captain, before you are working for a company that will pay that great pay, you spend a lot of time just on the low level, you know, making bad pay. You spend a lot of time in that right seat. You spend a lot of time flying that small plane, being an instructor. You know, I have a lot of friends who are like, man, you know, you're flying, you know, for this company already. That seemed pretty fast. And you're just like, I've been flying for 4 years. You know, I worked as an instructor for a year. It was a long, miserable year. I really did not want to be an instructor. I kind of did it because, you know, COVID hit, and that kind of jacked up a lot of companies. You know, I worked for companies that I really didn't want to work for. You know, my first gig that I worked for was a small company called PlaneFax, and they sold planes. And so I spent the majority of my time cleaning and transporting planes. You know, I did everything from transporting planes to washing and doing detailing. It was not a great gig, and pretty much I got paid nothing. You know, I had to still work a part-time job while working that job because it paid nothing. Same thing as a CFI, the company I worked for. I was getting those hours, but the pay was so bad that I had to take another job. You know, I was CFIing in the morning and working as a bus driver in the evening. So it just came down, you just had to do your time. So time can suck. It can feel like everything takes so much time, but that's the worst of it. That's the worst of it. Time will come and go, and eventually, when it seems like it just sucks, just remember, in a year or so, in a few years, you're going to be at that next level. You're going to be making that extra pay. You're going to be flying that plane you want to fly. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but it'll be eventually. That time starts running out, and you'll get there. you'll look back and you'll be like, oh man, I remember day one when I was flying that thing and I had like 0 hours in the plane, or I just got out of training and I had like 10 hours, and here I am now, I'm rocking it day in, day out. And now people are like, oh sweet, you had all that time, boom, we want to offer you this job. So there's always a silver lining to each one of those worst items, right? Now let's get to the good parts. The 5 best reasons, or the best parts, I should say, of being a new pilot or being a pilot in the junior levels, whatever, however you want to take it. Number 1, you get to fly. Oh my God. I don't care how long my day is. I don't care who I have to deal with as a captain, as an XO, or who I got to deal with on the ramp, or, whatever drama is going on in my life. There is not a time for me personally, and if you're really into this career, you love flying, it should be the same for you. There is not a time in which I have an opportunity to fly and I don't want to fly. The only time I don't want to fly is when I'm sick. Nobody wants to fly when they're sick. But I could be, dealing with a crappy schedule. I could be dealing with, money issues. I could be dealing with family issues. But when I was at flying the PC-12 as an XO, as an FO, first officer, and my captain was like, hey, you want to fly this leg? He didn't even ask. He didn't even need to ask. There was never a time in which I was like, nah, you got this, man. Never was a time. When he was like, you want to fly this leg? My answer was, I want to fly this leg. If you're like me and you love flying, the other stuff, you just kind of got to take it and leave it. But if you love flying, that's one of the best reasons to fly. To be a commercial pilot. You get to fly every day. I could be super tired. I could be bored. I could be hungry. As soon as I get up in that air and I take off, it all slips away. I have to think about what I'm doing. I have to fly, and I get to look around. I enjoy the view. I get to fly the planes. I get to enjoy it. I don't think anybody who's doing this job and has been doing this job for a minute hates flying. There's other things they could be doing with their education, with their experience, and probably be making as much or if not more money. They stick it out because no matter all of the bad parts, they still get to fly. I love flying. I could fly all day, any day. I will fly all day, go home, hop on the simulator, and then fly for the rest of the evening. That's how crazy I am about flying. So yeah, the next thing is the pay scale. So number 2 of the best reasons to be a pilot, or why the best parts of being a commercial pilot, is the pay scale. Now, what I mean by pay scale is the way it scales up. No job can I tell you that you can come in through the ground floor making as little as $24,000 a year, and within the next 5 years, I can almost guarantee you'll be pushing $100,000. This is the only job I've ever seen that has such a huge jump in pay scales. My first job, I was making less than $25,000 a year. Yeah, as a pilot, as a commercial pilot, as an instructor, I was making a measly $25,000 a year working as a flight instructor. The first gig I got flying commercially, I was making $30,000 a year. And this was after 1 year. I went up 5,000 in pay jump in 1 year. Very few jobs are you going up $5,000 in 1 year, right? I flew for that company for less than 7 months. And now I get double that. I went from 30,000 to 61,000 in less than 7 months. Now, this may or may not be indicative of everybody, but I guarantee you new pilots, in their second year, they should be making around that, if not more, depending on where they go. Now, once you go from this level of, flying for a small 135 as a captain, you can stick at that company, and some companies, they go as high as a 135 captain, where you're flying 91 and 135. Some of them go up as high as 120, 140,000 a year. There are 135 jobs where you don't have to have your air transit pilot license, where you just need to have a commercial license, in which you can be making starting at 90,000 a year. Obviously, having that air transit pilot license will increase that substantially as well. You know, when you're looking at being a first officer at a regional, there are regionals that start at 40,000, where coming from a 135, you take a pay cut. But within the next couple years, you're looking at jumping from 45 up to, 60, 80, $90,000. There are 135 captains making almost $200,000 a year. And that's in a neighborhood of like 10 years. I don't know too many jobs where in 10 years you can go from starting at 45,000 and just by being there and doing your job, not begging for promotions, not trying to get new gigs, just staying at the same job, doing the same thing day in and day out, maybe going from first officer to captain, which takes a little bit of work, but you're still flying planes, you're still working as a crew, you're still at that same company, and in 10 years you go from 45,000 up to almost 200,000. So there aren't too many jobs like that. So the pay scale is there. Now we're at a good time because a lot of companies are hurting for captains, or they're hurting for pilots, I should say. And so they've got more incentives to get you to stay, whether it be with bonuses, whether it be with, higher pay, whether it be with better benefits. It's there. We had companies that were paying 45,000 that are now trying to get people to come in by giving them like 20, 30, $40,000 sign-on bonuses, and trying to keep them with, starting pays of up to like 80,000, 90,000 a year. So the pay is there. The pay scale is amazing. It's not, I'm not going to say it's not hard work. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours you got to put in. I would consider once you're done with the majority of your work, you pretty much have a bachelor's, if not a master's degree worth of education and training invested into it. But I know plenty of people with bachelor's and master's degree that don't have jobs that are guaranteeing them, 100 and something, 200,000 a year. So, pay scale, number 2, it's amazing. The next thing is travel. You get to travel. Even for small companies, you get to travel. It's amazing. I had most of my runs, I'm cruising around LA. Or not specifically, I'm cruising out of LA and cruising around Southern California. I don't see it as much of a thing, going from like here to Santa Barbara or going here to San Diego. And when you think about it, it's pretty amazing. Not too many people fly from or get to drive from LA to Monterey and back and just be like, yeah, that's just my regular day. They don't get to do that. I had a day where they asked me to do a run from LA to Utah, just to go pick up a plane and bring it back. It was awesome. Flew through Las Vegas, went to Utah, flew back. It was fun. It's amazing. When I worked for my last company, flying the PC-12, they sent me all over. I flew through Baltimore, I flew through Boston, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Dallas, Portland, Denver. I was all over the place. And it's pretty amazing. I've been to places I never even heard of just by flying. They didn't even know existed. So you get to travel. Traveling is amazing. I love flying into new places. I love seeing new cities. Some people, they just kind of get to the airport and then they just go to the hotel and they call it a day. No, I like to explore. And if you have that mentality of, it's an adventure, it makes the job even better. So travel, that's number 3, one of the best reasons. Number 4, community. Aviation is a great community because you are literally surrounded by individuals who share the same passion. I don't think there is a person that I've personally met in these fields at larger companies, at smaller companies, that did not love flying, that did not love airplanes, that did not love anything connected with aviation and travel. They all wanted to be here. They all loved being here. Sure, they'll complain about pay, they complain about hours, but when it came to the equipment, we could be flying all day, every day, and they will still relish on how much they love flying a plane, how much they wanted to fly this plane, they want to fly that plane. They're enthusiastic about their future. Well, they're thinking about, how can I get to that 7.4? How can I get to that Challenger, that Citation? They just love it. It's their dream. And so because of that, the community has been so warm, so accepting, and so willing to help. Everybody, if you are at, your typical corporate job and there's an opportunity for someone at another job. Let's say you're working for, I don't know, Best Buy, and there's a tech job that comes open up at another company and you're interested in getting it. You will find that, people, they don't want to share that information. They want to be cagey about it, or they don't really care. They don't want you to jump on that opportunity. Now, most of the pilots I've met who are like, oh yeah, I'm building my hours, I'm going here, I'm applying here, they will tell you right out, hey, dude, I just applied for this other company. You should apply too. Oh, they're hiring. They need a bunch of pilots over here. I'm going to apply. You should come, or, you should go to this company. You should go to that company. Oh yeah, man, United or, Piedmont, PSA. I just applied and they're, this is what I did. You should check them out, drop an application. Oh, hey, you work over there? Yeah, I work at this other company. We're hiring. If you want to come on over, I can give you a reference. Everybody has been so welcoming and so open and so cool in this company, and they all love aviation. They all love aviation. It's a very big open community. It's because we all share a passion, and because we all share a passion, we want everybody to be part of that passion, right? If there is an opening at my company, I will be the first one to tell you to come and apply. If there's an opening, I've had so many times in which I've had pilots who are like, yeah, I really want this job. They're only hiring like a couple people, but I can't take that job, or, I don't know if I'll get it. I don't have the hours, or I got another opportunity. They will send me messages, and I will send them messages and be like, hey, these guys are hiring. Have you tried? I just got an email from these guys wanting to know if I want to come in for an interview. You should try them out. That's how the community is. And so the community is great. It's a great community, a lot of cool people, a lot of fun people. A lot of people want to be safe. A lot of people want to, take care of their friends. What did I write as this one means? I can't even remember. I can't even read my own handwriting. I wrote number 5 down and I can't read it. Let's see. Opportunities. I can't read my own handwriting sometimes. Opportunities. Right now is an amazing time to be a pilot. When I started, it was prior to COVID, obviously. It was like a year or two prior to COVID. We were still in a shortage, but the shortage wasn't as bad. You still had to work at it, meaning that you had to work as a CFI for a bit. You had to put in your time. On average, 5 years was going to get you to a regional, and then maybe another 5 years or so was going to get you to the main line. And that was a conservative or pretty good timetable for your average pilot. Now, they're hurting so bad. There's so many incentives. There's so many companies, especially smaller companies, that just need those pilots with, any sort of competence, any sort of, basic skills just to fill those positions. That I'm hearing people going from, finishing their commercial to getting to a main line in less than 5 years. Because I've had people that I know personally who started off flying like 2-3 years ago, got to their 1500, got picked up at a regional like that, and spent less than a year at a regional and got picked up by a mainline. Like, that's how crazy it is right now. That's how crazy it is right now. Now, I had a former training pilot who had his restricted ATP at 1,200 hours, right? and he was working as a director of training at at a company I used to work for, and he was picked up by United to train, and they offered him a contract where basically they were like, you work as a training pilot in their sim center for like 2 years, and they were offering him a direct position at FedEx mainline, or at United mainline. That was unheard of just a few years ago. Unheard of. Ridiculous. Programs like Purple Runway getting you to FedEx, Aviate, the Republic Academy, all those things, they were unheard of. They didn't need to do that. They had so many pilots that were begging to get in. Now, they can't find enough to fill 10 years down the road. He was, I was talking to a United captain who was like, before they were hiring like 11 people a month. He was like, now they're trying to get 70 people a week into these classes. The numbers are just ridiculous. And so there are a lot of opportunities, working at this job. It's a fun job, but I've had so many people at this job, at other jobs, where they're like, yeah, normally it would be like, give them a year, try to stay around a little bit longer. They appreciate it. And now, with just all the opportunities and the money some of these companies are throwing around, even guys who've been here for 5-10 years are just like, I can't justify it. I can't justify telling you to stay at this company for so long when there's a company who wants you now, is paying double the money, and offers you to get into that jet and get you to the main lines faster. It's like, it would be unrealistic for me to say, stay and knock it out. Stay and put in more time. I can't tell you to stay for several years when we just lost 10 pilots to the main lines because they were just scalped so easily by just doubling their pay and giving them, incentives. I had a buddy of mine, he's a captain over at SkyWest, and he was like, yeah, he makes good pay, he's comfortable, and SkyWest offered him, I think, like 40,000. No, they offered him 80,000, 40,000 over 2 years, or 40,000 a year for 2 years to stay on as a SkyWest captain. And out the gate, United just came and offered him 100,000 as a sign-on bonus to come in and be a captain. And I was just like, I mean, that's a no-brainer. What are you gonna do? You're getting way better pay, and you're getting a freaking huge sign-on bonus. I'm like, you're not a fool. You're here because you make smart decisions, and that's a smart decision, So the opportunities are amazing right now, and not even just for the main lines. There are so many private companies, if that's what your path, that are hiring. There are private companies who normally wouldn't even look at you at like until you were at 3,000-4,000, that are now like 1,500. We need you. Come join us. There are companies that are like, we need FOs as well too, and they're like 1,000 hours. We'll put you on a jet, to be an FO, And so it's the opportunities are pretty astounding right now. So that was my 5 best and worst parts of being a pilot, and I guess you can say the reasons as well. I tried to make it a shorter video, and then we're at like 30 something minutes, but it's just so much to say about it. I want to thank you guys if you made it to the end of the video, for making it to the end of the video. If you guys have any questions and you have any comments, feel free to leave them down. I love hearing your comments. If you have any questions and you want me to make a video about it, or you just want me to answer it, I will try my best to do it, depending on scheduling. I will try to keep you guys in the loop as to what's happening with my life, how my career is advancing. I'd love to hear how you guys are advancing. If you've flown, what are you flying? What are you doing? And yeah, thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for being my fans. Thanks for, the likes and all the great comments. And you guys stay safe out there, okay?